We're previewing Week 9 here at SBR Forum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We're talking right now with returning guest, NFL handicapper Stephen O. from AccuStore.com, who gave us another winner in the NFL last week. Stephen, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me again.
Congratulations. The bats last week, I have to admit, I saw that line. I got nervous. I did not follow your advice, although I knew you were advising to take the Pats, but easy cover, right?
It wasn't so easy initially. It was 7-0 and you had a touchdown, so I was like, oh. But then within around 5 minutes, I felt pretty good.
Yeah, all right. Well, I've also gotten you've inspired a bunch of people to ask for that SBR discount code that we've talked about. So why don't you quickly tell us what it is before we get into today's game?
Go to AccuScore.com. You've got a join page. You enter SBR, capital F, capital B, capital R. You get 25% off any package, which is a pretty outstanding deal.
Yes, it certainly is. All right, well, we're going to talk about Denver-Cincinnati. That's the game you picked this week. And I'm not sure what edge you're going to say you see here. I mean, to my eye, at first glance, the obvious choice is Denver because Cincinnati's having all kinds of problems. Denver is playing great, but that's a little bit of the ESPN-style handicapping where you just look at their last few games and pick the team that's great against the team that's awesome over the team that sucks. Cincinnati's a 3.5-point home underdog. They are off the bye. Denver, of course, is off their big win, and Cincinnati just go down their problems. Andy Dalton not passing as well as he did earlier in the year. They can't run the ball at all. Defense inconsistent at best, whereas with the Broncos, suddenly playing great. Peyton Manning playing as good as he's ever played. We remember back at the beginning of the year when people were saying he was all washed up. Obviously not true. Defense is very effective. So the ESPN handicapper in me says Denver minus 3.5.
Well, we've been licensing data to ESPN for the last 5 years, so maybe, I've influenced them or they've influenced me. But 85% of the public's on Denver and AccuScore is on Denver as well.
Really?
The simulations have Denver at a 54.5% chance of covering 3.5. And, when I look at a line of plus 3.5 with a 47 total, the odds makers are setting it at a score around Denver 26 to 21 or somewhere 26 to 22 in that range. And every number is indicating Denver's poised to score 30 or plus, right? They not only average 29 points a game, their opposition, they've had a tough early schedule. The opposition's only allowed around 21. So Denver's scoring nearly 8 more points per game than the opposition has allowed to the rest of the league. On the flip side, Cincinnati allows nearly 27 points a game, which is not only 4 worse than the league average, it's actually nearly 6 points worse than what the opposing offenses usually score. So you got this great trend for Denver to score 30 plus. At the same time, Cincinnati has only scored average 18 points a game in the last 3 weeks. Denver's defense, plays great, especially with the lead. And you're really looking at a Cincinnati team that, is poised to score 25 or less. So I can certainly see why Denver should be a 5, 6, or even 7-point favorite. Even though coming off the bye and for Cincinnati, I don't think that's going to be the issue. I mean, Denver didn't exactly get pushed against the Saints last week, and even though it's a short week, I think the odds makers are playing too much of that. Not short week in terms of not that short. I guess played Sunday night, so I think that Denver should be a 6-point favorite, honestly.
No, I mean it does make sense. So then I'll just ask quickly. Anytime you see a line that you think it's off, you do kind of want to answer the question: well, why is this line where it is? Why then do you think if the public sees this as Denver's a side, you see it as Denver's a side, I see it as obviously Denver's a side? Why then is the line only 3.5?
I didn't check the weather. I don't know if the conditions are supposed to be bad or I think it's supposed to be windy. I don't know if there's questions about, Peyton Manning, whether he can still, his zip on his pass in windy conditions. I'm sure coming off the bye is playing in Cincinnati's hands, but again, I can't figure it out. The Bengals, they're 0-3 versus teams over 500 this year. I looked at since 2011, they've only covered a plus 3.5-point spread twice against playoff teams or playoff caliber teams. So, versus around 9 times that they've lost by at least 4. So I don't know what the number is other than Cincinnati is a playoff team from last year. They're at home, rested, and 3.5. It's a traditional line based on those calculations. And Denver's still what record-wise, they're not 6-1.
Yeah,
so,
right. Yeah, no, and, hey, 3.5 points giving to a home team in the NFL is a pretty nice gift there. All right, I'm convinced. Thanks so much once again, Stephen O. from AccuScore.com. We'll talk to you again next week.